Good morning. Welcome back to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host. I've been sharing with you some advanced type planning tips when it comes to annuities. We've talked about the basics before, the difference between a fixed annuity, a fixed index annuity, a variable annuity, and then those that are referred to as deferred annuities versus an immediate annuity. We're going to now talk about how to take some of that knowledge, right? How to take those basics and now apply it to some more advanced concepts. So one of those we talked about before the break was for legacy planning. Another, just before the break, I got into just briefly about using qualified plans. So basically for SEPs or for certain small 401ks and the like, you could, that can hold an IRA, an annuity. That's another way that you can use that for income in retirement. But one of the ones that gets talked about too little are immediate annuities. So when we get into income planning with an IRA immediate annuity, this concept's a little different. Here's where we're looking to set up like a ladder of income sources. So the strategy is for investors who want a source of retirement income they cannot outlive, right? So we want guaranteed income for life. And if you're married, of course, that might be for 2 lives that you want to make sure that's covered. And the potential for that income to increase over time. And this is where creating multiple IRA buckets can help you do that. So you're establishing, again, a reliable current income with an immediate annuity, and then with that also, by the way, is going to comply with your RMD requirements while growing the living benefit in a deferred annuity for future income. So in other words, I can start out with a certain amount of income that I need right now immediately in that first year. And then, let's say, depending on the time frame, maybe 3 to 5 years or however long I want that to run. And then I'm going to have one that is growing on a deferred basis for 3 to 5 years, and then I'm going to start taking income from it. So I've got a client as an example right now. We've got we've had her portfolio. We had a very conservative part of the portfolio, and you can use these same concepts, by the way, when you're laddering up your portfolio. So in other words, I can have one portfolio that I'm going to use for income, and let's say I only have 25% stocks in it, or maybe I've got it in all fixed, all bonds, all fixed, where it's going to be more stable, it's not going to be as subject to market volatility, and therefore provide me a stable income from that in the short term. And then let's say I still need more growth than maybe what that conservative portfolio is going to provide me. So now I might have a balanced portfolio, 50% stock, 60% stock, something like that, where I'm looking to grow my money more to meet whatever that needed rate of return to accomplish my financial goals might be. So, and then I might even have a more aggressive portfolio as long as I'm comfortable with that volatility from a risk tolerance standpoint. I maybe go 75, 85% stocks for some of that money where I'm looking for even more growth, recognizing it's also going to have more volatility. So I need to make sure these other buckets, if you will, are in place to help take care of me where I can ride out that volatility. The next piece that comes in then is I do that same thing from using annuities. I can say start an immediate annuity where I get that income right away, and I can have that for lifetime. I can have it increase over my lifetime. So many different products out there that can meet different needs that you might have. And again, the goal here is I want reliable, stable, current income, money that I can use right away, right, to supplement, say, my Social Security, a pension, if that's what I've got. So the more, if I can, in particular on my necessary expenses, I can have it set up to where I've got that money deposited into my bank account every month, and I don't have to worry, all the necessities are covered. And maybe even for fund money, we might factor that in too, and for the discretionary spending, or we might have another bucket, if you will, another pool of money just for discretionary spending. So keep in mind, this required minimum distributions. This is, again, with IRA planning, you always got to be thinking of those RMDs. The IRS is going to make you start taking money out at age 72 and pay tax on the money that we've been able to grow on a tax-deferred basis. Cumulative RMD amounts calculated for each non-annuitized IRA may be taken from any one or combination. So again, this is where I can put them together and choose whether I want to take my RMDs from just one account or spread it out over multiple accounts. And it's, you know, again, the flexibility here can be very beneficial in managing my taxes, as well as making sure I've got not just the income that I need, but in a tax-efficient income plan. You want to use trustee-to-trustee transfers or rollover to separate IRA funds into more than one account. So we don't, you know, this one you got to be careful of. You don't want to take that money out and then a month later decide, oh, I need to have that in this IRA, and then you do what's called a rollover. You can only do one of those every 12 months, so you got to be real careful there. Ideally, we want to do a trustee-to-trustee transfer. So we take it from one IRA. Let's say we have a big IRA, $500,000, and we want to split it into two smaller IRAs of $250 each for this income and planning purposes. Then we just want to do that trustee-to-trustee. Easily done, and making sure that that way we're not triggering any taxes. Unless non-deductible contributions have been made. In other words, if you've got, you know, if you've got a Roth IRA or after-tax contributions that can be rolled into a Roth IRA, that's some additional planning that goes into that, and you really need to understand those rules, because you don't want to accidentally miss out on being able to get some tax-free growth if that's available to you. With keeping in mind, withdrawals from a deferred IRA annuity with a living benefit, right? This is with a living, what we call an income rider. Even if it's taken to satisfy RMD requirements, can lock in payout percentages, and your growth can go down. So you want to make sure, again, that they're matching. So what we're seeing with this diagram is now we're taking the IRAs and we're dividing it, right? We take that big IRA and we're going to, in this situation, divide it into three parts. The first part is for immediate annuity, which is immediate income. The second part, deferred annuity, where with the living benefits, which are going to give me a guaranteed income amount whenever I trigger it. And usually the longer I defer it, so if let's say I put it in Nationwide's product and I leave it in there for 3 years, then I can, you know, I'm going to get a higher income from it than if I started my income after 1 year. And if I leave it in, of course, for 5 years, then I'm going to get a higher guaranteed income. And again, that can be for a single life or for a joint life. And you want to shop these. There are a number of companies out there that have really great products, and what we're looking for, again, in shopping is is matching up, rather, the product to your particular needs. Now, this one, for investors who want a source of retirement income they can't outlive, and a potential for that income to increase over time, to help you keep up with inflation and the like, or to ladder them up where I have differing amounts to accomplish that same goal. Lots of ways to make this work. The IRA owner in this situation, all right, you want to be thinking also for your surviving spouse. So and for your children. Because what you're doing here too is you're maximizing the income. You're making sure it's going to, you know, your income is going to increase over your lifetime. But you're also thinking in terms of legacy can be worked into this kind of planning at the same time. All right. One of the things, you know, I mentioned about a client that I have right now, and we've done this with a number of them, and right now she's in a long-term care situation. We're, you know, looking at how, you know, where we're pulling money from. In her situation, she had a long-term care policy, so that's going to help cover those expenses. We also had within her financial plan, which we set up, it's been, about 9 years ago, almost 10 years now. And one of the pieces of that was an annuity that had a long-term care benefit. And what that does when we trigger it is it's going to, in about a year, So we have set up in our planning, we got, here's how we're going to cover your income. And we first started out with some conservative investments to provide for immediate income. And then we have some intermediate monies that were invested to grow on a tax-deferred basis, but as well as growing that account to plug in the income need on the intermediate term until we got, so the whole goal was, how do I cover different income needs, increasing income needs, and RMDs, right, till I get to my 10-year mark, because this one, the income annuity that has the long-term care benefit, that was one of the caveats, is we need to get, to the 10th year of that, or through the 10th year of that, and then start that income in the 11th. And what it does for the long-term care benefit, it will double the amount of income, okay? So she's going to have, say, $50,000 a year, and with the long-term care need, it would double that to $100,000 a year. So this is one of those areas, right, where with the planning, we've now covered RMDs are taken care of. We don't have to worry about that. Her income has increased since she's retired almost 10 years ago. Each year, it's been able to go up. We've been able to manage her taxes at the same time so that we've minimized taxes, especially through those initial years. And then once that RMD period kicks in and the income need goes up, we also have got that factored in. All of this is a combination of a portfolio, right, in the market, as well as in annuities, such as a laddering. In other words, in this situation, we were able to do that with just 2 annuities. Sometimes we might have 3 or 4. And there's some other strategies for Roth conversions and that can come in, where we might even have 6, 7, 8 different annuities where we're going to be doing conversions over time. So there's so many different ways these can be worked to your advantage. One of them here is the spousal inherited IRA bucket approach. So this is income for a younger surviving spouse. This is on page 16. We'll get that one up. So the concept here is we want to provide income and growth potential. Use an account bucket approach for a surviving spouse who's under the age of 59 and a half after the death of the IRA owner's spouse. Now this is a tricky one, because the reason for this, most times we're going to roll that annuity or that IRA into the surviving spouse's name. So it's going to become their IRA. All right. Now the downside of that is if she's under, in this example, if the surviving spouse is under 59 and a half, in that situation, if she were to start and she needed income from it, there's going to be a 10% penalty for taking money out prior to 59 and a half. So to avoid that 10% tax on distributions taken by the surviving spouse before age 59 and a half, and to grow the income at the same time for their future retirement income, this is one way that we can do that. So tax consideration, there's not going to be a 10% premature distribution tax on those funds. And the reason for that is we're going to have some of the money go in the form of an inherited IRA. All right, and when you get into an inherited IRA and you're counting it in that fashion, you don't have that. You're allowed to take money out without the 10% penalty. Okay, now there are some other downsides. One of them being that would also trigger the 10-year rule on that amount of money. So we need to make sure that we match these up. There's a lot of number crunching that goes into this, but it's quite effective on minimizing taxes and, of course, eliminating any tax penalties at the same time. And then some of the money would go as a spousal IRA, which would then become their IRA, and that money was money that we know we can leave alone until at least past the age of 59 and a half, where there wouldn't be a tax penalty as well. And that allows us to also grow that money for that future income need at the same time. Keep in mind, again, all amounts received from an inherited IRA and a spousal rollover, re-registered IRA putting in, are treated as ordinary income for the surviving spouse. So she's still going to have to pay tax on the money, just we want to avoid that 10% penalty on top of the tax. RMDs for the surviving spouse under an inherited IRA must commence no later than when the deceased spouse would have attained age 72. Inherited IRA may be re-registered into the surviving spouse's name at any time. If the surviving spouse has re-registered the inherited IRA and now it's into his or her own name and takes a distribution from the re-registered IRA, now if you do that while under age 59.5, again, you're going to trigger that 10% tax penalty. So we want to match this up to where that's not going to happen. So basically the surviving spouse purchases an immediate annuity for income now as a spousal inherited IRA if under age 59.5. Then the surviving spouse purchases a deferred annuity with a living benefit, that guaranteed income, right, for income later as their own. That's to give them guaranteed income for life. Surviving spouse purchases the immediate annuity, then the deferred annuity, then creates a liquidity bucket for emergency needs. You definitely want to make sure you've got at least 6 months worth of expenses in an emergency fund as an example. And we may, depending on what the short-term income needs, we may increase that, the amount that we keep in the bank as well. So the structure of the three-bucket approach. Bucket one is for income now. So this is on the next slide. We'll show this, this diagram. The product is, again, an immediate annuity. In this situation, we can do this sometimes with deferred annuities as well. The spousal inherited IRA. So in this situation, it would be, you know, typically the titling, let's say it's John and Sally Doe, and John Doe is deceased, so it's John Doe deceased IRA for benefit of Sally Doe. Annuitant, so the titling becomes very important in the type of the type of IRA that we're dealing with. So again, this is a spousal inherited IRA. The beneficiary, the surviving spouse, gets to choose whoever they want. Typically, that's, of course, going to be their children. There are no premature distribution penalties because the annuity is titled as an inherited IRA rather than putting it into the surviving spouse's name. Now, bucket two, there we can do that. This is for income coming in later. Here we're going to use a deferred benefit, a deferred annuity with a living benefit, meaning that lifetime income rider. The annuity is titled at the surviving spouse's own IRA now to provide income after they turn 59.5. The annuitant, of course, again being the surviving spouse, and the beneficiary, whomever they choose, again typically their kids. Then we have bucket three for emergency needs. And now here we're thinking more liquidity. So we want it in checking, savings, money markets, accounts where we can get at that money readily as needed. And this, again, if this is all qualified money, that can still be done as a spousal inherited IRA. And again, they can name the beneficiary whoever they want. And the goal being that this is like a safety net, if you will. I've got immediate income to cover my needs. I've got another account that I'm growing for future income needs. And then I have my third account just as a kind of a stopgap, a way to, if I ran short, I've got to place another bucket here where I can go pull money out and still not have that tax penalty. And then later, if I didn't use that up and I turn 59.5, I can always then turning it into a spousal IRA where it becomes under my name again, and that allows me to stretch out the required minimum distributions. I know this is a lot, right? It gets kind of complicated, but it's to your benefit. These are benefits that you can use, that you can get true value from to help you stretch your dollars out, make sure you never have to worry about running out of money during your lifetime. All right, we're going to take another break. When we come back, I've got some more concepts like this to share with you, and I'll also give you an opportunity if you'd like to get a personalized plan done, how to do that at no cost. First a break, join us here. We'll be right back on the Retirement Report.